Hi, this is Carla Pendleton once again. If you've made it this far in this series, thank you for your patience and understanding, especially as I try to do my own videography here. The last video that we did was incorporating the leaves and stems into our design. And so today we're going to start on the focal point. That's this flower right here. And that is the peony that we're going to focus on. Let me go ahead and show you step by step how we do that. The first thing I want to do is take a fairly clean brush. Now this has some medium loaded in it and some of the combination French burgundy and a little touch of red grape. But it's pretty dry. I can already see, and you may not be able to see it on the camera, but I can already see that this edge is starting to feather a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and re-oil it, and I'm using fairly dirty medium. As you can see, it is not a clean dish. I'm just soaking up the rest of the medium in here because I'm going to smooth down the petals. These are the guard petals that I've defined here with my finger painting in video step number 1. And now I'm going to lightly load. Now I've wiped against the lip of the dish, so I don't have a real heavy load of paint, but I'm going to put in a little light load because what I want to do is smooth out the fingerprints a little bit. So I'm just lightly touching the surface of the paint. I'm trying not to go through to actually hit the china. And then I'm always pulling from the outside edge of the petals to the inside edge. This one I would like to see a little bit longer. I lost a little bit of it when I put in the stem and the leaf, and that's okay. We'll regain it here. So we're just kind of doing a blending stroke. I'm back on the handle of my brush. I'm not right down here at the tip where I would be working if I had a lot of detail. And ooh, I think I'm getting off camera. So let me pull this back a little bit. And here is where I'm working now on this 5th guard petal that I've got displayed. All right. Now I would also want to turn that around, make sure I've got kind of the shape I want. And that it's smooth. I haven't missed too many places. But I'm going to go ahead and put some highlights in on these petals, especially down here at the base. I'll probably put one in here too. This one's pretty much going to disappear when I put in the secondary petals, you know, the little petals that kind of come out from the center on these peonies. And I'm going to soften those down. Now I have wiped the excess paint that I've gathered against the lip or against my towel here. So I'm just removing some excess paint. The brush is still pretty moist, but when you use the Art Aid medium, you want the paint to not be too dry. You want it to glisten. You don't want it to puddle. So I'm gonna pull that back in because I didn't like that highlight after I got it done. And we're gonna do this. I'm going to pull these highlights. We're just softening now with the brush. You see my hand is a little bit closer to that ferrule because I want a little more control. And I still don't think I took off enough highlight there. So I'm going to pull a stronger highlight with my wipeout tool. And hopefully you're still seeing this. Yes. I'm checking the camera every once in a while, I promise. Then we're going to turn around. We're going to do the same thing on this petal, always pulling those strokes back toward the center where we're going to be gathering paint because that's going to be a dark part. We want some dark color under there. And let's do this last one. Now my brush is getting a little dry, and I can tell because it's starting to feather at the end. Instead of being a really straight edge, I'm starting to see some feathering there. So just pull just a little bit more. And I think I'm going to pull a little more that direction just to make that petal look a little more curved. There we go. And maybe a little more off here at this very edge where we cross that leaf. We're going to put a highlight there. Yeah, lost too much of it. Just going to put it in with my brush and try one stroke across. There we go. Okay, this one I'm not bothering with because it's going to disappear here very shortly. Now, there are also some secondary guard petals that come away from these major guard petals that have fallen down, and I'm going to just pull one out using my brush and a little bit of color underneath here. Yeah, I want a little bit more angle on it. So I'll put a highlight along that edge and then just pull back in toward the center. Didn't like that. That edge was a little too straight for my peony tastes. Peony petals are more rounded than rose petals, but they do that layering like rose petals do. They can do some of that. Ooh. I think the mailman just came, hence the dogs in the background. So let's just change that shape a little bit, and we're going to call it done. All right, so we've got our major guard petals in. Let's shape them up just a little bit, especially these ones that are going to be showing. We're going to kind of give them a little bit of a ruffled edge. We don't want them too straight, because then they start looking like rose petals, or angular, like rose petals. Let's give another highlight right there. And I hope I haven't taken off too much paint at this point. We'll see. Put a little bit back on. All right, and let's do a little bit of work on this one, because I think we will see the edge of this petal, and I'm just using my wipeout tool to shape that edge a bit. Come in here with a little chamois, wipe off excess paint. The French burgundy and the red grape combination is kind of sticky, and so you really need to clean up those edges well. Just get all the paint off of there. And let's do this one also. I'm kind of liking the shape on this, so I won't change it too much. I do want to clip that tip a little bit. We don't want these looking like rose petals. They're peonies. And even though they're shaped, they're structured a little bit like the rose in the way that the petals layer on each other, they still are unique and more rounded, less angular than most roses. Of course, the cabbage rose is an exception. I think it's part peony probably. Or at least it looks like it. Okay, so I'm cleaning out my brush now in the Duratine brush cleaner. And I'm going to press very hard on that towel to get the brush cleaner out. Then I'm going to go in and load some dirty medium out of my dish. Just moisten that brush up because we are going to use it next to wipe out the inner petals. Or the secondary petals, I sometimes call them. And we'll kind of give ourselves a little sketch to follow, because this is going to be a 3/4 view. We want this to be a little bit more angular. And here is where we want it to be oval in shape. So you can kind of see I've got a rough oval sketched there. I don't want it too big because I know as I wipe these out, it will get bigger. Now, in order to not wipe out too much paint, I'm going to load with dirty medium that's still in my dish, wipe against the lip of the dish, and then grab a very light load of the French burgundy and red grape combination. I'm just using the corner of my brush to come in here and start wiping out those secondary petals. And I'm kind of using the left corner, then the right corner to pull in. Same thing. Now I've gathered so much paint on my brush now that I need to wipe lightly against my towel to remove some of it, because otherwise I'm not going to be removing enough paint on these secondary petals. Come around here, and now we're going to get shorter as we move towards the center. Shorter strokes. We're going to give those some more highlight later on, and maybe a couple pulled right in here, and hopefully that has all stayed on camera for you. And I did come down here for a second, I think. And you still saw it. Okay, so this is good. I'm going to take a little bit of that color because I put a little too much highlight on that particular guard petal. I wanted to take some of that off. So we're going to use some of the medium, or some of the paint that we've gathered on the brush to do that. These are just things I see as I'm going along, especially when I start turning the piece around so that it's facing me. And I sometimes see things that I didn't see when I was trying to paint sideways or upside down in relationship to the flower. And I'm just changing the edge here a little bit using my wipeout tool. And we're going to go ahead and wipe out some very strong highlights down here along this edge for these secondary petals coming out. Now I may have quite a bit of paint on my brush, so I'm going to lightly wipe it against my paper towel and then start pulling these petals in a little bit further towards the center. And I think that's going to do for that go around. Now we want to put a second layer, and I'm going to have to clean my brush again. I've really developed quite a lot of bit of paint in it, and I'm going to want it a little bit drier. I'm also going to load some, I'm just putting it in that same dish, just a few drops of medium. So it's still dirty. I don't want to use clean medium at this point. And I'm just getting my bristles saturated with the medium, wiping it at the lip of the dish, and now because I'm going to be taking off paint, I'm going to do just a light tap on my towel to remove some extra medium. Now I'm going to go straight in and start a second row of these petals. These will be a little more narrow and a little smaller. They're not as mature. They have come away from the flower. And I'm wiping excess paint against the lip of the dish here and blotting it. Not blotting it with my finger, but just wiping it against the towel to remove some paint. Ooh, that's a good one. I like that one. And here we'll put some more petals. Remember, they're coming in from the center now. As we get closer and closer to the center, they're going to be shorter. We don't mind taking off paint at this point. So let's go ahead and put some highlights in and then tap them. That petal, I really like more of a point on that petal, so I'm going to just tap it in with my wipeout tool. Maybe tap one in here. And we're going to start curving them around so that we start seeing more curved. Actually, let's put the stamen in before we do those smallest petals. I'd kind of like to make this one a little bit more dramatic back here. So I'm just going to use my wipeout tool to put a highlight on that petal. Pull it back in, and we probably need to do the same thing with its neighbor. not going to make it the same shape, of course, but we want it to be highlighted a little more than it is. All right, now let's go in and prepare to put the stamen in. We're going to be wiping out paint. I'm using the pointed side now, obviously, of my wipeout tool, and I'm wiping the paint against my paper towel here. As I come away, you'll see me walk over here, and because this is very dark paint and we're going to put yellows in there. So we've got to really clean out some area, or our yellows will muddy right away, and we don't want that. Okay, now we'll take the 1/16 inch brush. Ooh, and it's got a hair coming out. I don't know what I'm going to do when I lose all the hair in this brush, but I'll figure it out when the time comes. Anyway, I'm loading some medium in. Now I'm trying to load it from the cleaner part of the medium because I'm going to use these yellows. I'm using the lemon yellow initially, and we're going to start pulling those stamen in with the lemon yellow. And you may have to reload quite often. Try and stay out of the flower petal color there as much as possible to prevent muddying. Going to check the camera. Yes, that's good. Okay, let's put in just a little more lemon yellow in here as we come away. And we don't mind some of the highlights showing up. Now we're going to pull up some corn. That's that brownish yellow, or a yellow with more brown in it. We're going to put it here at the base, and we're going to put pull a little bit of it up away too, up and away. And I start at the base, pull towards the tip. And then I like to show just some dabs of paint that indicate pollen back here. And I'm using the corn again. And I'm reloading quite often because every time that brush plants, I'm going to pick up a little bit of that flower color. And that will muddy the stamen if I'm not really careful. So there we go. So the stamen is in, and now the reason I had these smaller brushes on hand is to do these petals. Now this is the 1/8 inch brush. It's a quill brush, but it's natural hair, and that's what I like to work with when I'm doing especially one firework. So I'm going ahead and I'm putting it in the medium. I am blotting it. This time I'm really blotting it with my finger against that paper towel. And I'm going to pull in some petals right here at the base. They're going to curve around a bit. Oh, I got that one a little bit too far in. And I didn't take off enough paint on that, so I'm going to clean my brush in brush cleaner and blot it, and then I'm going to push in there a bit. And probably this one needs to be a little bit lighter in value as well. Let's pull one in right here and maybe just show the flat of one coming in this direction. And I'm looking at that and I'm calling it done. Maybe a few little touch-ups. I see this guard petal actually did show up a little bit out here, so we'll just change the shape a little bit on that. Make sure there's plenty of color in there. And if there's not enough, and I don't think there's enough left on mine, I'm going to come in here with this smaller brush again, loaded with the petal color. That is the French burgundy and the touch of red grape, and put a little bit more paint in behind there. There we go. That's more like it. All right. Those guard petals should be the darkest because that's what will highlight then the interior petals, the smaller petals. If I have a place, ooh, and here's a place that I'm not real fond of. I didn't get enough highlight off of that. So I'm going to come in and pull that color around a little more. Pull those petals out that are back there. And you can do that by just wiping off some paint and highlighting them a little bit. And now, really, the texture of the brush is what makes all the difference. If you have an absolutely clean brush with nothing but the Duratine in it, you have to blot that out really well, or it will tend to spread on your darker paint. So just be aware of that. A clean brush is a wipeout tool in many respects. It's just softer than the Kemper tool. I'm going to put a little more color back here as well. All right. And I think I'm going to put one more short petal right there. Let's soften that down a little bit and pull it in. Change the tip a little. And I think we're done. That's going to be it for defining the focal point. And thank you so much for watching. Oh, and I did forget to mention that I had changed a few of these leaves to make them a little larger. When I did the Step 3 video, I made them a little small, trying to get them on camera. So those are some things you'll notice. I'm going to go ahead and change the camera angle and see if I can't get a close-up of what I have done with this peony flower. There we go. Hopefully I'm not moving too much and you can actually see the work. Well, thank you so much for watching. Next step and final step, we'll put a bud on this. Bye now, and may God bless you.